Hi, my name is Dakota. I'm going to elaborate a little more on what David said, and I'm going to talk about predicting student performance on our diagnostic. So our most recent version of the diagnostic has been administered over 1,900 students at 3 large university campuses over the course of 3 semesters. From these data, we have found interesting relationships between diagnostic items and overall correct diagnostic performance. So this performance is observed at the course level and the student level, which I'll get into in a moment. So predicting course correct response rate. So that is how a course on average does on our diagnostic. So here's an example. So say we have 7 random courses. So our samples, we have algebra-based courses, calculus-based courses from different semesters and schools. And then say we give them the diagnostic, and then we evaluate their total score and then also their single score on a certain item. We call a predictor. So, and from that, if we can draw a model that takes the correct response rate of the single item and then predicts the total score. And so we can do that with 7 other random courses, and it turns out we have 14 courses in this 1,900 student sample, and they actually all point towards the same model. So these are some of our good predictor items, so that the single item that we evaluate to predict on. Item 1, this is solving a right triangle, solving for the hypotenuse. Item 7, just an algebra problem, solve for x, symbolic coefficients. Item 18, simultaneous equations, symbolic coefficients. So item 18 is predictor. So horizontal axis here is the correct response rate on that item. Vertical axis is the diagnostic correct response rate on the entire exam without item 18. And you'll see that it has a R squared of 0.88, so it's very predictable. And all these little dots are different courses from different campuses, different levels, and different semesters as well. So that's all the other items I talked about. Those other good predictors are also representative of what you just saw there. So here's another method. So we do the same sort of analysis, except we look at the single item and then we look at the type of error that the student did on the problem. And then that's our model. So we do this again, and we actually find, I'll get into detail what type of error means and what problem I'm talking about, but this F also predicts total score on the diagnostic. And so items involved. So here's item 8, 9, and 11. These are just fraction problems that are symbolic. And then we have item 14, which is solve for D. You have to manipulate these symbols. And I should mention 8, 9, and 11 are essential parts of item 14. So in order to solve item 14, you really need to understand and know 8, 9, and 11. So let's look at item 14 and students who were incorrect on 14. So for example, this is how I'm going to categorize, or how we categorize. So students A and B get this problem incorrect. Student A gets one of the fractions, or all, or 2 of them incorrect, and that we would classify as an operational error. Student B gets all 3 correct and gets the other problem incorrect, so we would classify it as a non-operational error. In other words, they had knowledge of the operations, but they weren't able to solve it in a multi-step context. So how does it look when we plot percent operational error as a predictor with overall correct response rate? So here we have it. So percent operational error on item 14, that's the horizontal axis, and then diagnostic correct response rate on the vertical. You see it's also a good predictor, has a correlation coefficient of minus 0.89. And again, these dots all represent different courses across different semesters and campuses. So summary, we find for courses, we find that course correct response rates on the entire diagnostic are highly predictable. We can predict the diagnostic correct response rate by simply examining the course correct response rate on a single item. The best predictor items are generally symbolic type problems, which we think points towards something. And then recall I've said it over and over again, but we have a very diverse sample from many different courses. So what about, you might say, okay, these fits are great, but you're taking the average of a course, so that reduces the variance, which is true. So how does it look when we look at individual students? So an example, if we have a student, if we know they got single item wrong, so it's either 0 or 1, they either got it right or wrong, does that correlate to their student diagnostic score, so on the entire exam? So I'm just going to look at some of the same items. I'm just going to look at 7 again. And here's a student distribution. So here's item 7. And the green are all students who got item 7 correct. The red is all students who got it incorrect. The horizontal axis is the diagnostic correct response rate. So you'll see that the ones who got item 7 correct are far shifted to the right. And we get a point biserial coefficient of 0.53, which is just a correlation coefficient. So it is correlated. And then what if we do the error type analysis on a single item? So they did the operational error, they did not. How does that look? Again, the same thing, actually better correlation here. So R is minus 0.67 for the operational error. You'll see that students in the yellow who do the non-operational error actually score better than the operational error. And then in summary, course diagnostic performance can be accurately predicted independent of course level, campus, and academic term. Student diagnostic performance is less predictable, but high correlations are observed. The strong predictability and correlation amongst diverse student samples, along with high correlations between items, which is also something we've seen, shows that students' lack of understanding in math seems to represent itself in various mathematics topics to a similar degree. Thank you.